Okay, I just hit record because I want to go in now, dude. I want to tell you what happened to me today.
All right, let's do it.
so, so we had a conversation yesterday. We talked on the phone for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I had a long chat. It was good.
Dude, it was the shit. It was like a kick in my gut. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And so like today, I just got back from the gym. I haven't been to the gym in over 2 months.
Yeah.
But because of our conversation yesterday, it made me question my manhood. I had to be like, who
I
am I?
know.
What am I doing? Like, I need to get back on the level here.
I
Right.
know. I know. Yeah.
It was awesome. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I just kind of want to maybe ask you to kind of share about what we were talking about yesterday. And I just want to give a little bit like under the guise of, because I noticed this too about when I listen to my favorite podcasts, right? I love it when they start on theme, right? Like I know what I'm there for. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like under the guise of, and I guess the second question I have, besides asking you to share what we talked about, is like, what would you describe the theme? What is the underlying theme of the show?
Our show
Yeah.
of our podcast.
Oh, yeah, this thing.
Yeah. So like in a way, it's like being the best version of yourself, right? Like the ending of suffering, right? Like enjoying life, enjoying the life experience, and then just becoming aware and waking up. Like just waking up to life and having the flexibility to change my perception and be open-minded to see that what, like maybe this framework and these ideas that I've been carrying around for so long, like no longer, I'm not interested in experiencing those anymore. I'm looking for a new experience in my life.
A new way of living,
Yeah, a new way of living.
a new
um
way of looking at things.
right. I wouldn't consider what we do self-improvement. I wouldn't say like it's I see it more on a level of experience, more experiential. um and no real judgment on living one way or the other, or whatever, but like really being objective and being open to seeing what character shows up in the world. Like, how do I show up in my life? How, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
it's go ahead.
well, and just getting clear on that, and like not not shying away from the character, the way the character is, like just owning the character.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Who and however that shows up, without holding on to it, right?
Right. And no judgment towards it, but just looking at things objectively and saying like, yeah, this is how I experience it, and this is what it is. And then, looking at it going, well, is that something I'm interested in experiencing, or am I tired of that? Like, how important is my peace? How important is my serenity? How important is, like, what are the beliefs and values of my life?
And that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday, is like the value systems that we operate on, like how we
Yeah.
associate value. And what you just said made me think about one of the books we've talked about before, the autobiography of a yogi.
Hmm.
Yogananda basically he's basically sharing the message of what he describes as Kriya Yoga, right?
Yeah.
And he's saying it's the science of yoga because it's something that you can test for yourself and experience, right? And it's tough to label it something like that as science because it's so rooted in something that can't be quantified or calculated or communicated to someone else, because it's truly your own experience. No one else will have it. You can't measure it. It can't be measured. And in science, you have to be able to have data that can be compared, contrasted, and the measurements have to occur.
Right.
But in Kriya Yoga, it's about your experience.
Yes. Yeah. And really just the application of a framework, like the application of discipline, and um it's really it's submission. I'm submitting myself. I'm taking the plunge into this world, like into the potential of reality, and like what is, rather than walking around under the guise that I've made up for so long.
Yeah. And it's, it's a tough, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's tough. Well, like if you've already, like, if you're listening and you're here now, like, I think you can kind of get it, but it's tough to recognize, like, it's tough to recognize that what you think is not true. Like, it's tough to be aware of that, or to cultivate the muscle that can become aware of that. Like, that
Right.
takes practice. All the stuff that we talk about in here is practice.
Yeah.
And and I was listening, and sometimes, yeah. Anyway, that, yeah, I just wanted to get kind of like a, like, what is our theme,
Yeah,
What,
I think that's really what it is. And I think the cool part about what we do is the sharing of experience, right? Like I've been super open and super vulnerable about all of the things in my life and how my character's shown up in certain circumstances. And I don't judge any of that anymore. I just look at it and recognize like, oh, well, you know what? That's what it was. And so if that's what it is and that's where I am, then how do I want to move forward from that? Like how am I interested in moving forward in my life, right? How am I interested in playing the games and showing up and right? Like, because at the end of the day, the only thing that I have is I'm carrying myself with me every day.
and that's
Like
the only,
people, yeah, I mean, people come and go, relationships come and go, money comes and goes, jobs come and go, all sorts of things like in the game of life are continually in flux. The only one constant is that I'm carrying myself into all of those arenas every single day.
mm,
Like that's it. So if like and I got interested and I know you did and a lot of people that we know got interested in being like not in control but being aware of of the character and being aware of self and being aware of the individual life experience,
how you're
right?
showing up, like how you're looking at how you're showing up.
Right, and having some authenticity and being like being completely open and being completely honest with what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't escape the truth. It's the only person you'll ever truly, like, the you that you are with right now is all you can know to be true. Like, that's why the Matrix is the thing, right? That's why there's all these stories and existential philosophies and all this stuff, because nothing can be proven outside of your own experience.
Exactly. And my experience is my experience. And nobody is going to have my experience.
And no one's responsible for yours either. No one's responsible for you. Like, it's
No.
this is the thing I've learned since we've started doing these things, dude, is like, the reason I kept falling down and experiencing stretches of anxiety and pain and just angst, was because I was still operating on the way I thought things should go, and the way and it was like we've talked about this before. But I feel this way and I think that. It's like, that needs to get out of the way. Like, but I don't know how to do that. It's hard to do that. And part of it is sharing how I'm thinking and feeling, right? Like, that's our conversation yesterday, was like, here's all this stuff that's going on, and
Right.
how I'm seeing it and how I'm internalizing it and interpreting it.
Yeah. 100%. It's like that area of my life that I'm interested, like I know it's maybe not maxed out or like it isn't moved. There's no inertia. It's not moving. I'm not experiencing anything different. It's sort of the same sort of rat race over and over and over again. And then I come to this place where I become interested in actually like taking a look at it. And I find it necessary to ask for some guidance and ask for some assistance or whatever it is. Right. But then I go to the person or I go to the information that I find valuable that I know is um, like moving. It has the potential to move me into a new experience in that area. And then it's given to me really clearly and it's right in front of me, but yet I still have ideas in my mind about how it needs to be. And like, oh, that's not good. And like, I can't do that. And they're like, this doesn't make any sense, right? Like I'm seeking out information or I'm seeking out things that I would like to experience, but yet I'm not open-minded and applying any of the things that are being shared to me. I still have ideas about how that should look.
Can you share some examples of how that's shown up in your life?
Oh yeah, like one of the greatest examples was like when I was playing golf, um I I I grew up playing hockey, and like my physical mobility with a hockey body was different than what I needed to be a successful golfer, right? So I sought out, you know, the best of the best in that space. And I go and meet this guy in Boise, Idaho. Great guy. He's working with a bunch of tour players. He's an awesome person, really knows his stuff, and he's the real deal. He's not, you know, a lifetime fitness guy. Like he's a guy that works with the best of the best, right?
Right.
And I go and ask him, you know, like, hey, would you put together a program for me, and would you do this, right? And he takes me through the whole thing. Like I submit to the whole process. And then after that, based on the assessment, I have a program that's built for me, very simple, very clear. I get the program. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how to do it. But you know what? Those hip exercises where I'm really deficient in my hip mobility, I'm not going to do those because it's just, you know, it's too hard. But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the, but like the T-spine rotation drills and you know, and the QL stretches and the lower abdominal, water bug exercises, like I like those, right? Like I like those. And so I don't focus, I don't focus on the full like I'm not willing to submit to the full program because I still have an idea in my mind about what it needs to be, even though this person's the expert. This person does this with some of the best players in the world. And here I am wanting to be that and experiencing that, but I'm not willing to do the things necessary to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. You get you. Yeah.
See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that's not on him. Like he did his job and he gave me a clear, objective assessment on what needed to be done. Like I remember the first time I met with this guy, I'd been operating my training routine and my training on my own ideas, right? Like looking at different books and different bits of information. What I did is I constructed my own program, right? And I worked this program every day. Like it was a full-time job for me. Like I was hammering it out all the time through high school, right? Like when I got to college, but it was my program. See what I'm saying? It was my program based on what I thought I needed, which was so far out. So I'm working my bag off on my program, right? And I get to this place where I recognize that I'm limited. Like what I'm doing isn't quite right. Like it's not quite fully efficient. And so then I seek out some info, like, which is a really, like, that's what people do who want to get better. They reach out to, or have a new experience. They reach out to people that are experts. But yet, even though I spend, you know, $10,000 or $15,000 to like go through with this whole thing and like bring this guy on board, I'm not willing to submit to the expert. I'm holding on to my old ideas about what it is that I need to be doing, right?
Mm.
And it's a it's a limiting thing. And then guess what happened for me? I go through the career and like had an underachieving career for sure because I wasn't willing to do the things necessary. I wasn't willing to make the decisions and make the choices that were necessary in order for me to max out what I had already worked for, right? Like what I'd already developed. And then of course my hip mobility was, I struggled with hip mobility. I struggled with lower back pain. I struggled with things that were all a byproduct of not following instructions and not being open-minded, right? And great lesson. And then all of a sudden, this hit me. This was weird because that specific incident or that specific example hit me like 2 years ago, right? Like I was getting ready to do like just some fun qualifier stuff and like play some tournament golf again. And I saw the program, like I still have the program.
Right.
And I looked at it and I was like, holy shit, it was here the whole time.
Wow.
Like it was here the whole time. And then guess what happened? I was in a place internally where I was like, fuck this, I'm doing this. Like I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna follow the hip mobility exercises and do the things that I need to do. And
Oh,
I started doing it every night, every night, every night, every night, every night. And then after a 6-month period, I started to be able to move in ways that I never could move before, and my performance improved.
wow.
Right. But like that's a 10-year window.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
like it's not like I woke up to that like 2 weeks later, you know, it was a 10-year window. And he said to me, and going back to like my program, right? And this is just a microcosm example of my life. This is a microcosm of just total sleepwalking in my life.
Yeah.
And I go and meet with this guy in Boise for our first session, and he looks at me and says, you have a body of a 10 handicapper. Like, and 0 would be the best, right?
Yeah.
And I'm putting in all of this work and all of this effort, right? And he says to me flat out, like, you have a body of a 10 handicapper. So if you're interested in playing professional golf, you got to get down to a 0.
Oh, so
Like
and
a
this,
10 handicapper is like just a chopper at a country club, right? Like that's what the guy that can't hit it through, you know, wet paper, that's how he moves.
right.
Right. And I'm an elite amateur that's playing golf tournaments all over the country, being recruited by some of the best schools in the country. And he's sitting there saying to me that like I'm a 10 handicapper, that I don't have the mobility, I don't have the body to be able to play professional golf effectively.
And what happened? How'd you interpret that information?
Well, no, it was a, you know, I got hit right between the eyes with a 2x4, right? Because I'm sitting there thinking going into this thing, like this guy ain't going to tell me anything. Like I'm in great shape, right? Like I'm playing good, I'm doing this stuff. And like it totally, and rather than being open and accepting of it, I got defensive. And in my mind was like, well, you know, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Like I'm totally
Right.
irrational, totally.
Right.
Therefore,
The
I
defense
could,
mechanism comes up. The ego
yeah,
tries to
I
protect
had to
itself.
defend this thing that was in front of it all, right? I had to
Yeah.
defend this character that I'd built up,
Yeah.
right? And then I look at all my buddies that I grew up playing with and then I traveled with, and the guys that ended up making it, like moving into that experience, those guys were open-minded. Those guys didn't hold on to things. Those guys were willing to take information and apply it no matter how hard or how difficult it was. They just kept chipping away at those things. Like they knew that their hip mobility was weak, or they knew that their T-spine rotation was weak, but they made it a focus to put time and effort into improving that, into making that into an asset rather than a liability.
Yeah, dude. And this goes back to like one of the most I like, if I could say I'm good at anything, it's I'm working at practicing at being really good at listening,
Right.
right? Because like to really listen and to really have your, because like it's, I don't know, it's just wild because you go through your day and you have ideas and thoughts about how things should go and what your life should look like and all this stuff, that when anything comes into my sphere of influence that uh, is against whatever it is I think things should be, I'm like I wanna retort or defend a space or a position rather, you know. And that's one of those practices, right? Is like, how do I listen more? How do I pay attention? How do I receive without being defensive?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the most, that's a huge, and see that the attitude and the mindset that I had, it makes everything really small, right? It limits my options, it limits my potential, it limits experiences that I might have if I'd be open-minded and take things in objectively, take things in more like a sponge as an observer, rather than going into situations with preconceived ideas about what it needs to be. And I'm not like, I don't have any regret, like any resentment of like what took place at that juncture in my life. You know what I mean? Like I did the best I could with what I was walking around with at the time that was being presented to me, that I was experiencing that. Like that's okay, right? Like I couldn't do it any other way, right? I was
Did
always
you?
going to do the program the way I wanted to.
And this is, I'm sure I've asked you this before. I don't know why I want to ask you again, but was it tough for you to get over the regret of your past? Like did you ever struggle with looking at things you could have done better and kind of beat yourself up about opportunities lost? Was that anything you had to work through?
Yeah, 100%. But like it was coming from a sleepwalking state of mind. It was coming from a place of victimization and like poor me syndrome, right? Like it wasn't coming from a place of authentic awareness or authentic like understanding, right? So I just took those things and took those ideas and took those feelings and just tried to sweep everything under the rug. and not really look at it, right? It wasn't until someone said to me, well, what did you do? Like, what did you actually do here? I don't care what he did. I don't care what she did. I don't care. Like, that doesn't matter to me. But what did you do in relationship to it? That one question changed my whole, every resentment I had or every regret that I had completely went away. Because what I recognized is that I wasn't taking responsibility for my life in those situations. I was still allowing external circumstances and conditions to run my life, right? And so I come to that juncture where I start going, well, what did I do? How did I respond, or how did I play this? And I looked at that isolated incident and said, well, I didn't do the things that was asked of me. I didn't do the things that would have moved me into a different experience or a different pedigree in my golf career, right? So then I don't have anything to bitch about. I didn't do it, right? And so I have to start to look at, well, let's understand the closed mindedness. Let's understand the character that didn't do that stuff. And
Right.
it was fear, and it was, right, like I was afraid of, I had this character in front of me that was so stiff and so structured that I wouldn't allow anything new in. That if it didn't match up with my idea about it, right, then I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, it's,
So
I,
yes, to answer your question, I went through a period where there was a lot of regret, where there was a lot of resentment, but it was from a point of perception or a point of view that was not constructive. It wasn't objective. It was still attached. And that's the only way that I can experience victimization or resentment, right? Is if I'm playing that victim card, if I'm playing
right.
that.
Well, I'm asking because I know that we could be having listeners that don't really know your whole story. And you entered a space similar as I did, where I'd been doing what I wanted to do in my life until it totally collapsed in itself, and I entered just a pure period of emotional and existential angst or pain. It was like the world caved in on itself, and I was hurting so bad that the asking for help was the only thing I could do, essentially.
Yeah.
And so when you say the term, you were sleeping through life or whatever, you were sleepy, like that's the same experience as me. Is I didn't have the awareness. I wasn't aware of what was actually occurring within me to be able to tell why things happened the way they ended up happening. And
Yeah.
same as you, it wasn't until I sat with someone and they said, okay, well, let's look at why you feel bad about this? And then what did you do in this situation? What was your part in here? And like really introspectively and looking at it, doing the exercises, seeing like, well, where was I in this? Where did I expect this person to provide this for me that I wasn't providing for myself? Like, where did I put myself in a position to be hurt? Where did I rely too much on external things?
Yeah.
Like, the job could be taken away at any moment, yet it can crush me if they say you're fired, right? And same with the girl, same with the house, same with whatever.
Right.
And so I just
And see
wanted to,
that. Well, and then the like, to touch on that, the thing that the shift that occurs, is then all of a sudden I start to make those decisions for myself. Or like,
once you've seen it, once you've done this work, once you
once I'm
see
aware of what's going on, I
yes,
can go to that, I can go to the boss, or I can go to the relationship, or I can go to like whatever it is, and I can start making decisions for myself. And I can say, hey, look, this opportunity has been great. I've learned a lot. Thanks so much for bringing me on board. It's been, blah, 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 but I'm moving in a different direction.
and that's what I wanted to kind of, I think one of the themes of our show is you are what happens to you. And it's a very heady concept. It's a deep concept. It's got philosophical undertones with karma, law of attraction, all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
when you come to terms that you are not only you are what happens to you, but you are what's happening, even deeper, right? Even more wu wei and feng shui, right? That is, touches on what we were talking about yesterday, which I want to talk about. And then I also brought a couple things that we can go through and
Okay,
read
cool.
through. But that idea, because it was all red pill stuff we were talking about yesterday. Super
Yeah.
interesting. And although the context of what we were talking about was under the guise of our experience being males in a society, right? I
Yep.
do believe it can be applied to anyone. Like it's
100%.
not, yeah, like that. We were talking basically about how women and men, like the ebb and flow of a relationship and courtship and what women look for and what guys look for and all that stuff. But the outlying factor is any individual, regardless if you're male, female, in between, whatever, when you make the decision to take personal agency and responsibility for your own life, life happens for you, with you. Like it's not a power, it's not like a dominance power thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then, what I'd add to that is, being able to get clear on the games of life.
Right. That's
Like
it.
being able to understand the games of life. Like, and there's a variety of different games, and they all have different structures and they all have different ways to be played. But, at the end of the day, they are games and there are consequences for how those games are played. And they're non-negotiable because we set the rules of the game.
Right. So it's like it's the workplace environment, it's
Finances,
yeah,
it's a
laws,
finance, relationships,
yeah,
right? Like friendships,
culture.
yeah, all sorts of stuff. I mean, like Monopoly has a different set of consequences and rules than, Connects, right? Like Chutes and Ladders is different than Monopoly,
Uh-huh.
right? Like they're still there, but they're games.
Right.
They're games. I mean, video games, right? Like I've never played, and I've never really played a lot of video games, but like from what I can remember, right? Like every video game has a different set of rules,
Right.
has a different set of guidelines, different set of objectives, but they're still games.
Right.
And within those games, every action that I have or everything that I do within those games has a consequence. It has a price to be paid.
Okay.
Right? Like there's a result of my actions.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Right? So like if there's an objective in a video game, to get through the corn maze without getting, shot by a Pokemon, right? But yet I make a wrong turn, or I make a move that's not right, like that's not in congruence with getting to the end of the maze, and that Pokemon shoots me, right? It's the Pokemon shoots me because I made a move at the wrong juncture in the maze.
Right.
Right? Like I did something, and then as a result, I was put in this position.
Yeah, it's hard for me to conceptualize it, what you're describing, because it's for the first thing is generally when you're playing a game, I guess the thing we've talked about and I'd like to examine is like, what are you trying to get? Like for me, I didn't realize that the games were running me. You know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden I realized I'm trying to get something and I wasn't even aware that there was something I was trying to get. And if I didn't get it, I'd be upset.
Yeah. So for me, I don't use the word get anymore. I use the word experience. So what am I interested in experiencing?
Okay.
Right? Like in a video game, for instance, like I'm interested in experiencing completion of the level, or I'm interested in, right? Like at the end of the day, like I'm interested in passing that level. And for me, like that one word of like getting something, like I understand it, but really when I boiled it down for me, I looked at it and it was good. No, you're not really getting anything. You're experiencing something.
Yeah, that's
Like
great. That's a great way to look at it. That makes
I'm
sense now.
experiencing a relationship. I'm experiencing, a career. I'm experiencing
Promotions, progression, holding hands, kissing.
right. And when I saw that, for me, like what it did is it made everything fluid. It didn't make anything concrete. Like it an experience is fluid, right? Like it's something that occurs like a winding river, right? But like if I'm getting something, that's super tangible. Like that's super in my mind, like that's something that's like, okay, I got this, now what?
Yeah, that's objectified rather than
Yeah.
experience.
And with experiencing, things come to me, things are coming to me, right? Like I start to experience, I experience the new car. I experience financial abundance. I experience new relationships. I experience, right? Like every day, like at the end of the day, I mean, I am today not the same person I was yesterday. I'm the person of yesterday's experiences and that were previous, all matched up into one day today.
With a variable of unknown mixed in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm an amalgamation of experience.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's the way that I look at my life. It's like, well, what are you interested in experiencing, Peter? Oh, cool. Like, yeah, find more, a greater level of financial abundance, right? A greater partnership and relationships, right? And so then with that, I'm not looking to really get anything. What I'm looking at is, okay, if I'm interested in experiencing that, then how do I become that? How do I become the type of person that would experience that in their life?
Yeah, that's what happened to me after the phone call yesterday. Was this is what we were talking about, and it was like it just elicited and it incited action within me in the middle of the phone call. It was like, I'm scheduling going to the gym tomorrow.
Right.
That's the type of guy I would like to be, the type of guy or the type of person that you were describing, that we were describing this type of person. We were visualizing and playing around with these ideas.
Right.
And then that was for me, it was like, okay, well, what do you do? It's like, because it hit a certain point in the conversation when I was like, wow, I'm doing a lot of talking, and I think there has to be some sort of action to go with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's these areas, right, like that I can look at and not like I don't believe necessarily in maxing everything out, but like being honest about how I'm experiencing my life and recognizing that it's coming from the actions that I'm taking. It's coming from the person that I am right now. And
Yeah.
so for me to experience something different or something, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But like in order to experience that, I have to become that. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
That it's on me, it's on me at the end of the day. And that really dovetails with the conversation that we had yesterday about really specifically masculinity and understanding how like I'd been showing up and how external circumstances and conditions had really had the power to dominate my life, right? Dominate my behavior and dominate how I showed up.
In layman's terms, we're talking about getting our heart broken by women, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, essentially that is, but really on a really deep level is giving away my power as a person, giving away my power and peace as a human to something else, rather than
Yeah.
taking responsibility and taking ownership of how I'm showing up in my life, giving that away to someone else to do it for me.
Yeah. And it doesn't
Then
just
being
have to be,
miserable and then being miserable about how it turns out.
doesn't have to just be a woman. It's been drugs and alcohol for me. It's been
Same thing.
career. It's been art.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been all sorts of stuff.
Same thing, right? Like giving away my power and giving away my ability to make decisions essentially, and to look at things objectively.
Yeah, and that's where the sleepiness comes in. The term for it, like, you're not aware of it while it's happening until you can look at it, until you can, like, that's what we were talking about too, is like, well, you said something, I want to point out something that you said that was really profound, that I thought was excellent, was um like, if you're going for a promotion, like if you want to experience, you said something like, your value, you become the value at which that shows up for you. Like, you become a high value person,
Right.
then the value comes. It's not the other way around. It's not I see the value, so I'm gonna get there. It's no, I'm gonna become a high value person, and then this comes.
Regardless.
Yes, that was
regardless of
super.
the external condition, right? Like I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and you know, he's going through a situation where he wants to earn more money. Like he's been working this job consistently for a couple of years, and he's like, I need to make more money, right? And I said, you don't need to make more money. That's like, you don't need to make more money. What you need to do is be the person that earns more money.
Right? It sounds so simple, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
it's not it's not like, oh, I need to get a better job. It's like, no, what for me, I've got it backwards if I'm walking into the world with that framework.
that's what's so wild. It's like, it
I need to be
sounds,
better.
yeah, I just need to be better.
Yeah, I need to be better. And this is really interesting because the thing that happened, you know, to me 5 years ago was really starting out at that baseline of zero, where all of a sudden, all of the external things completely didn't matter. Like it didn't matter. Like the games didn't matter because it was obvious that I was a failure in every game that I tried to win.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to be excellent or be able to win that game because if I did, then I would have won.
yeah,
I would have been satisfied.
yeah.
And I was never ever able, and I don't believe that any human being is ever able to satisfy themselves. And right. So like that's the great guise. That's the great illusion. Is
Right.
that thinking that something outside of myself can satisfy my internal desire for whatever it is,
Mm.
right? This internal desire for wholeness. And but I got to that place, you know, like where a lot of us do, especially those of us in recovery, where like it didn't like none of the external stuff it didn't matter anymore. Like I was very clear, I can't live. I just can't live. Right? Like everything in my life is so hard and it's such a struggle and I'm so sick of this and I'm so tired of it. I give up. I give up. And at that point, I'm completely open-minded. I don't have any preconceived ideas about what my life looks like because it sucks and it's a failure.
Yeah.
It's an absolute failure, right? And then I come into a place where I can reach out and ask somebody that I admire, someone that I look up to, right? Follow my intuition and say, you know, what do I do? What do I have to do? Because I'm done living the way that I'm living. And I didn't know that this was taking place at the time, but like I look back on it now and like that's a profound experience because all of a sudden I went from being externally motivated to starting to walk the road that was inside and starting to take responsibility for my life. What do I have to do? And then submitting myself and following another man's, you know, like following another man in my life that shares with me some principles and shares with me some disciplines and starts to let me know or give me an idea of why my life looked the way that it did. And it all starts to make sense and it all starts to match up. And I start to see my life more as a comedy, more as like, wow, that was crazy stuff. Like you were totally clueless. But I get interested in going inside. I get interested in practicing some of these things on a daily basis. And that's my only focus. That's my only motivation. It's just to practice. It's just to do these things. And like one day, next day, day after, right? Like bang, bang, bang. Like just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. Don't give a fuck about what's in my life. Don't fucking care. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if she's there. Doesn't matter if the bank account looks good. Doesn't matter what car I drive. Doesn't matter what my apartment looks like. None of that stuff matters anymore. Like I got interested in my life and I started doing these things because I needed a way to live. I needed a way to navigate the waters. And that was it. And then what happened, which is crazy, like 5 years down the road, I look back and I'm going, wow, like look at all this shit that is cool. Like look at all these experiences that you have today as a result of focusing on, you know, like being a red-pilled person, which is essentially all consciousness is. That's all it is. It's like a red-pilled person is conscious. They're intent, they have intent, right? They're following a disciplined life. They're doing things that other people aren't doing, but they're doing it from an internal perspective rather than an external perspective. They're seeing the world and they're seeing the matrix and they're seeing the games and they're seeing all of these things of like how things work, right? And then I go through this transformation where I start chipping away and chipping away and chipping away and chipping away and chipping away just for the sake of chipping away, just for the sake that I didn't have any other options, right? And all of a sudden, I'm not pushed around in relationships anymore, right? I'm speaking my piece. I'm sharing myself, right? I'm making decisions. I'm putting myself in situations with better career opportunities and more abundance financially, right? And like all of the losers that I was hanging around with aren't attracted to me anymore, and I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
Yeah.
But like I just don't care about that stuff anymore, right? I start being around high value men that are carrying themselves in a stand-up way, and they're living life abundantly, and they're living life peacefully, and they're comfortable with who they are as humans. And those are the men that I start attracting into my life. And I start getting examples of like what consciousness and what awareness and what the principles behind this life, like what these things actually mean. And what it means for me today is that it gives me the ability to have options. It gives me the ability to be able to make plays. I'm not just sitting there playing the game because I have to play the game. I'm sitting there playing the game because I'm choosing to play this game. Right? Like I'm an active participant in this game. I'm doing these things, right? And my life starts taking off. It starts growing.
Man.
You know what I mean? It's wild. It's really wild. And that's what led me to our conversation yesterday, where for me, it's the end of a year. The end of the year is coming up. We have a new year coming on the other side. And so I'm looking at my life and I'm going, okay, cool. Like, well, let's look at these areas. And so which areas are you interested in developing new experiences with? And what do those experiences look like? Right. And for me, this next year is in the financial game, right? Like 2021 was great. Like made some cool plays, got to play some new games, increased my skills, increased my value in the marketplace, earn more money. Like more money came to me as a result, right? And so I get to experience a life like today that's debt free, right? I have no fear about paying bills. I have no fear about paying credit cards. I have no fear of taking vacations. None of that stuff, like gone. That limiting I don't experience that anymore today.
But you couldn't have
Right?
said that. You couldn't have said that a year ago.
No way. No way.
So what did that look like for you? What were some of those disciplines? What were some of the practices?
Well, for the financial piece, it was actually years before that. Like I understood that I was going to do like I understood the recruiting game, right? Like I understood that I'd been given an opportunity, but that in order for me to increase my income, I had to develop more skills. And so it was like, well, let's play these games and let's pay the price to do it. Let's not bitch about how much money they're paying you. And I didn't really make any money. Like I took the jobs because they were an opportunity to develop skills.
Right.
Like I went into the opportunity as like, hey, I don't know anything about recruiting, but like this is going to be a new skill set. I'm just going to do this. Right.
Right.
And that job turned into one job. Then I moved to another job and that paid me more. And then that company, I left that company and joined another company. They paid me more. Right. And then finally I joined another company that paid me 30% more.
So you went towards what you were interested in.
Yeah. And for me, it was even simpler than that. It was just, I needed some skills. I didn't care what it was. The only skills that I had was teaching golf, right? Was teaching golf and playing golf.
Right.
I had value in that marketplace. And so last year, for instance, an opportunity came for me to make a pivot, right, into a new opportunity that was going to pay me 30% more for the skills that I had developed over the last 4 years. So the 4 years paid off in a 30% pay increase, right? Which then put me in a position where I'm getting to learn new skills in a new organization, right? So my value is continuing to go up because I'm becoming more. I'm developing more skills for the marketplace.
Right.
And so this year is about like, okay, well, where can we expedite or where can we really focus on skill development?
And so these are things that you're just thinking of. It's not something that you're not doing like a specific exercise or anything.
Well, no, like these were things that I had written down. These were things that I had looked at over the course of my life as soon as I started in recruiting, right? Like I was aware that the game, like this was the game.
Right.
Like it
Yeah,
was very, yeah,
it brings me back to the vision board that we did with when we first started the show, and how everything's it was, because I like this gameplay talk because it's something that is tangible. Like it's something that we all can know and point at, right? Like we know what a job is, we know what a relationship is, we know what money is. These are objects in the material realm, right?
yeah,
And so the vision board was super helpful for me because I was able to use the objects that I was looking at as the starting point to look deeper within, like, what type of character do I want to realize? Like, what type of character would I like to embody in this world? What type of role interests me? Like, what is my natural interest towards in regards to the role that I would like to play, and have it all there. And then go even deeper, and that's kind of where the thing that tripped me out is like the willingness, even at the end of the day, to surrender my ideas and my thoughts, and even any game I may be playing.
right.
Which is, I found myself yesterday with a friend who's he just did his first interview with Google, right? And he was calling me and he was like, he's nervous, and I heard myself saying something that someone had told me that had a profound effect on me, and it's and I don't know why I am this way. I guess because I've gotten out of my system all the games I wanted to play.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an artist, I became one. I wanted to be a writer, did it. Musician, did it. Blah blah blah. Podcast, whatever. I became that, and it wasn't what I was seeking. And so I live in this space or this state of like the only game I'm truly interested in playing is the game of conscious surrender, the game of being lived. Like this harmony or this divinity that you can experience in the day-to-day life of just like not a lot of many people get to be here right now. To me, it's a fucking miracle, and it's astounding that we get to exist, and I'm not being torn apart in a million pieces, floating through space or being in some shitty situation that you and I both have been in. Like, it's just to be able to be present and to be able to be content and just exist and go with what is like, I want to, like, it's a weird thing to say, but like, I want to be the river. I don't want to, I don't necessarily, does that make sense? Like, I want to be whatever it is.
Right. And so like the thing that you're saying though, like that doesn't exempt you from the way the games are.
No, it doesn't. Matter of fact, knowing what they are is even more important.
So like, and like, for instance, when the Georgia Power Bill comes, right, and I'm interested in experiencing, right, like I'm not interested in playing any financial games or like career games, and the Georgia Power Bill comes and I'm living by myself in an apartment and I don't have the resources to be able to cover that responsibility, right? Like, I can't get mad at the game that I'm not playing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I can't get mad at the game that I'm playing.
No, that's it. Like, but that's the thing. We're born into this game, right?
Yeah, 100%. There wasn't any conscious choice necessarily. And like, but the point is that like, even though that's the nature of existence, that doesn't exempt me from being a human being, right? Now I can make different decisions. I can shit can I can shit can all the games, and I can go play the monk game, right? I can let go of every material possession that I have, throw it into the bin, leave the job, and sign up for a monkship.
That's what's crazy. I was thinking about while you were talking about the different games, and I was thinking like every time you encounter an individual, it's a new game every single time. Like, I was thinking about this podcast, like this is a totally different game than what I was playing at the gym before we started recording.
Exactly.
And it was totally different than what I was doing on shared space meetings this morning. That was a totally different game. And I was thinking, dude, like, so I play a character on this video game, right? Like, uh, I'm a bard, I'm a minstrel, and the role of the bard is basically to be a utility where he fills like you're in a group and you're trying to accomplish missions, right? And the role that the bard plays is they're jack of all trades. They can crowd control if you got to keep all the enemies like still and not moving. They can do damage if they need to. They can do a little bit of healing. They can do a little bit of everything. They're not a master of anything, but they do a little bit of everything. And
Right.
I was thinking like, holy shit, that's how I like living my life. There's a reason for some reason I chose this character. It's like, I want to play all the games. I don't want to be tied into any one specific game.
Right. Right. But see that again, like that's for you.
Yeah.
Like, see, and then the harmony comes where I'm in alignment with those decisions and those visions. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's
Like,
where,
hey, for me, this is cool. For me, this is cool. But then owning that and then not being dicked around or swayed by someone that says that's not okay.
right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like she comes in and says, you don't make enough money. Well, fuck you. This is what I do. This is what I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
Right. I enjoy my career experience. I'm not interested in setting the world on fire with $1 million a year of income. And if this isn't okay for you, then you have every right to leave.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But what
totally.
happens is that if I'm in a state of fear, if I'm in a state of unawareness, if I'm in a blue pill or whatever, right? That person comes in and says that to me. And then I go, well, I'm not good enough. I don't make enough money. She's obviously unsatisfied with my income. So then I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe she's right. And in order to keep her happy or to pursue her happiness, I'm going to let go of something that I really enjoy experiencing and then go do things that I'm not interested in experiencing, not for my own life, but for hers.
Well, this is where the middle way shows up though. Like there is a level of like listening to the feedback, absorbing it, really understanding it. Where does it affect me? How does it affect me? Why does it affect me? Why am I affected? Because that's the thing I've noticed too, dude. Like if we're talking the truth of the show, it's like it's learning how to pay attention to these compass points.
Right.
Like it's when I am agitated or disturbed by what somebody says to me, there's something in me I got to look at. There's
100%.
some truth there. When Melissa comes in the room and says, you've been playing too much EverQuest, and I get upset and I get upset, there's some truth there.
Right.
But on the other side, right, when I know I'm doing my stuff, when I know I'm getting it in the way I know I'm capable of getting it, and she comes in and says that, and I know I'm no, ma'am, no, this is my time right now. Like I've been doing it. Like here's all the stuff I've
Right. And
done.
you see the difference there, right?
Oh yeah, it's night and day.
It's a totally different experience.
But yeah, the point I'm trying to make though is there to have a little bit of emotional agility, or not agility, but like emotional awareness.
Yeah, it's flexibility, it's fluidity. It's being able to look at that objective openly and honest. And see when that stuff came to me, like, because that was a real example that I shared with you. Like when that stuff came to me the way that it did, I didn't take the time and the space to go like and see if it served me, like for my life.
But that's the thing. That's what I'm getting at, is that like life in my experience, it seems to be life is trying to tell me things. So like Melissa is a manifestation of something like there, if, and and Eli's a great example too. Like, you know, these things in the world are the, how I respond, like what comes up when I'm presented with something. That's the game. Like that's, if I'm paying attention to the temperature of my being, like what's going on within me, that's where I need to stay. Like, because life seems to want to like life is the guru.
Right. But then also taking ownership and saying something, well, you know what, I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what's interesting is like,
See, and I never had that ability. I never had that point of consciousness or that point of awareness where I could come at something that came to me in my life in that frame, in that way.
Yeah, that's why this stuff, there's no real, we couldn't actually tell, no one can tell anybody what they could ever do because everyone's so different. Like having the ability to stand up for yourself,
Right.
like, and really be like, no, I've earned this time, and I've earned, and this is the thing I want to do. Like, I know I want to do this, and to really own it, that is a practice. That's a skill.
Yeah. And the only way that I can practice that stuff, I can't practice it on a podcast. I can't practice it reading a bunch of books. I can only practice it from experience. I have to be in it.
Mm.
Right. Like, and so for me, when I look at those experiences that I had both in relationships and career, I'm so grateful for all that stuff because I can look back on it now and go, whoa, how fucking asleep were you, dude? Like, look at the way that you responded to this. Look at the way that you reacted to it. Like, look at what you did as a result of what someone else said to you or what someone else did. You didn't have any ownership of your life. You were just a bouncy ball in a fucking outhouse, just being, you know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
being kicked around everywhere.
Yeah, that was mine. Like I felt like I was whipped around by life. I just felt I was victimized. But I
Exactly.
didn't. But my thing was, so I fought so hard against it, like that even like the word victimization doesn't do it justice, when actually that's really kind of what it was. But I was fighting it, and it was like it didn't make any sense. Like,
Right. And it's having that awareness of what's valid and what's invalid. Right. So like if somebody comes to, let's say I'm bitching about my career all the time. Like I'm just bitching about it, right? I'm in that poor me thing and I'm just complaining, blah, blah, blah. But yet I keep showing up every day and I'm not willing to do anything else. And like one of my buddies or a girlfriend comes to me and says, you know what, like, let's talk about this. Every single day you come in and start, complaining about your job and all of these things that are going on, but yet you're choosing to be there on a daily basis.
yeah.
Right. So like you either, like you got to, there's something that you have to do about this. You either have to make peace and see how you're showing up and what you're doing, or it's time to make a career change and do something else.
Wow. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So like and then I want to be the type of person that doesn't have any defense mechanism up over that, where I can be like, you know what? I am bitching a lot about my work and I am showing up every day, and that's my choice. And I did sign up for this.
Mm.
Right. And like, you know what? You're right about that. You're right. What you're saying is right. And I
Wow.
wasn't that type of person. I was the type of person that had to defend the character that was in front of me. Right. And say, get off my back or fuck off, when somebody was actually trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
See, it's a different, when someone cares or someone really is genuinely interested in your life and they come to you and they share what they see about my life and how I'm showing up, right? Like that's different than someone coming to me saying, hey, you know what, you're a loser because you don't make enough money.
Yeah.
That's a different deal.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
And I didn't have the ability to understand those as different, like one was coming from a place of interest and care or love, if you want to use that word. And another one was coming from a place of personal attack that, this person's not good enough for me. Two totally different things.
Mm.
Right. Because on one hand, when the person comes to me and like saying, well, do you have something you want to talk about, or let's talk about your career, let's see what's going on. Like there's an element of curiosity there. Like I'm actually genuinely interested in what's going on in your life. Right. Like you and I do with people that we talk to, like, hey, well, talk to me about that. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like what's up with that situation that you experienced, yesterday at Kroger, or, when you flicked the guy off that ran the stop sign, or you got into that altercation with the taxi driver at the airport, right? Like, what's that about? Like, let's talk about that, right? And like come from a place of understanding and maybe helpfulness or like availability, rather than saying, you know what, dude, you're a fucking idiot. Like, why would you ever get into an altercation with a taxi driver, right? Like, you're a moron. See the difference?
Yeah.
And like, I'm interested in being the person that can be open to that constructive feedback or that constructive awareness, rather than being so wound up in my own character and my own crap that I can't see that someone's actually extending their hand or they're actually interested in my life. I didn't have that ability. Everything was the same. I just shut anything that came at me that criticized or brought to attention what I was actually doing. I did not have time, and I wasn't interested in listening to any of it. Any of it.
Huh.
Right? Crazy stuff. And the thing that I've recognized over in the course of my, the last half of a decade really, is that I had a low value mindset. It was a low value, uninteresting mindset. There was no interest in development. There was no interest in growth. There was no interest in new experience. It was so close-minded, and my world was so small, right? And it really, at the end of the day, I don't care who the person is or how much financial resources a person have. It's unattractive, and nobody wants to be around it. Nobody. It gets sick, and it pushes everything that I might be interested in away from me.
Mm.
And that's exactly what happened in my life. I pushed away every single thing that I was actually interested in experiencing, all because I was so asleep and so afraid that my character would be on the front line.
Mm.
That my character would actually be visible, and you'd see that, you know what, really, I'm just a scared kid. I'm just a scared, immature person that doesn't know what he's doing, has no fucking clue what he's doing.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the truth always comes out. The truth always comes out. The truth of my character came out. It was shown very, very clearly. And that was what happened to me 5 years ago when I had that moment where I was like, Peter, on your own power and on your own thinking, you are a complete failure. It's not like you might be a failure or you struggled in this area. No, every department of my life was a failure.
So it's just making me think of the first time we did a show, and I was at your office, at your old office space at Ponce City Market downtown.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there with you. We were doing the vision board that day, and I was just like, we were just talking. I was like, I got to throw the recorder down. I need to just capture whatever's going on here. And I was like, what is Peter, right? And you were, because it was the first time I had encountered someone who had an experience similar to mine, which
right.
was the ego death, which was the dissipation of the identity of this thing that
Small
we call
self.
Yeah, the thing that the world's been telling me I was my whole life, Adam Abramowitz. And it was when I had that ego dissipation, because it just left me. There was no me anymore. There was no Adam. That was the subject of that first podcast, was like, when you're like, there's no, like, Peter's this character, Peter's this thing, right? Like underneath that, is where I exist. The space of awareness, or the space of being, like,
yeah,
that was some heavy fucking shit we were talking about.
Yeah. It's revolutionary. Like, it's a revolutionary thing when I recognize that I wasn't my name. Right? That
Yeah.
I really wasn't my name. Not only because I wasn't my name, but because it's impossible to be my name. I can't be it. I can experience it, but I can't be it. Right? I'm never I'm never anything outside of myself. I'm never anything outside of it.
Anything other than what you currently are.
Yeah, and all of that stuff over the years had been piled onto me and had been, tagged on my name, like this big, those like when people get married, they get the cans on the back of their car.
Just married, yeah.
Yeah, I just think of that. Like I think of like this, 4 million cans just roped together, being, drugged behind this vehicle that I think is real, right? Like
That's a good description.
every one of those cans has got some idea attached to it, right? It's got, handsome Peter, ugly Peter, short Peter, tall Peter, stupid Peter, dumb
Golf.
Peter, right?
Yeah.
Athletic Peter, right? Successful Peter, non-successful Peter, loser, upstanding citizen, like all sorts of feedback that had been given to me over the course of my life. None of that came from within. It all came from you guys. And those ideas and those things that I'd been told of who I was dominated my motherfucking life. It dominated my life. And so I've given up on the quest to figure out who Peter is. There's nothing to figure out. Like I don't need to know my name. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What does matter is, and the question that I'll ask myself sometimes is, Peter, how is your name showing up in the world?
Ah.
How are you showing up? How is this character, how is Peter showing up in your life, in this life, in this experience? That's it. That's really it. And the only way that I can move into new experiences with my character is by being aware of how the character is actually showing up and taking ownership for the character, taking ownership, like taking responsibility for that shit. Because I have to take responsibilities for the labels that you slap on me, because I'm the one fucking doing it.
You're allowing it, yeah.
I'm the one that's doing it. I'm the one that's going into the office, acting the way that I am out of that idea. It's not happening to you. It's happening to me. It's coming to me. But yet you gave me the idea. The responsibility is not on you for giving me a better label. The responsibility is on me for whether I'm taking action out of that or not.
Wow.
And I recognized that I was taking action in my life with a bunch of fucking bullshit, a bunch of ideas, and a bunch of things that were not ever my decision. They were never that wasn't what I was. And it's confusing as fuck. It's so confusing because there's this thing that's going on in me that's like, you know what? Like I can't be that. Like this doesn't make any sense. Like I don't feel like this is who I really am, but yet I'm doing these things.
Right.
Right? Like I had those thoughts all the time. I do something crazy or tragic, end up in a really, crazy situation. And I remember like after those had passed, I'd be like sitting there on my bed or like in jail or whatever, going like, what the heck? How does that happen?
Yeah.
That can't be me. That can't be who I really am. That stuff can't be it.
That was my waking moment of last year, waking up, bailing myself out of jail, 8 years sober, going back to the little room in my buddy's house that I lived in, looking around and being deeply dissatisfied and realizing, this is the kicker, realizing every choice I've ever made has led me here. Like every choice I've ever made in my life has led me here, and I'm deeply dissatisfied, right?
Yeah.
And that's when things really started kicking off, when I really started listening, when the show started. That was when we were talking and we started really crafting a vision and then deciding what that looked like and understanding the character traits of like, how does someone exist who lives in this way? And like, that's the thing is like, in that moment, I was forced to take responsibility because I was the one that hadn't gotten my license renewed. Like that was me not being responsible for playing. Like this is the game that we're in. As much as I want to be a wu-wei wizard who exists in the crease of time and space,
right?
That's not reality. That's not reality.
Because
Bill's...
right, yeah, 100%, right? Like that. There's like I said to you from the beginning, like if it doesn't, like I'm not exempt from other games existing. right? Like I'm not exempt from that. I'm not exempt when the tax man comes and the rules of that game are that 30% of whatever I bring in is going back to the mothership of money,
America.
right? Like those are the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So like I can't sit there and be like, oh well, you know what? Like I'm gonna send some money to Switzerland and I'm gonna, like, you know what I mean? Like, no, that's and if I do take a bunch of dough and move it to a Swiss bank account or whatever that can't be tracked, then I have to take responsibility for that action.
Yeah.
And that maybe the money mothership finds out that I've done that, and then they prosecute me for tax evasion.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, cool. Like I made the decision, like I did what I did, then I gotta pay the piper. I can't get upset at the game, you know?
Exactly. And that's, yes. And that's what you were saying. That's what we were saying at the beginning. And
Yeah, because I'm the one that's showing up. I'm the one that's showing up and playing the games under those rules. Like I can't play Chutes and Ladders on the board of Monopoly.
yeah.
The game's fucked up.
Yeah. I've tried. It's not a good time.
Yeah, and that's where, like I'm a huge believer in breaking rules, because rules are ideas and status quos that are typically like built out of, sometimes they're authentic and sometimes they're not. But I'm not a fan of breaking laws. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. I don't know if you ever saw Arnold Schwarzenegger's video on that, but he talks about breaking rules, right? But
Yeah.
not breaking laws. Right? And like I will always be a rule breaker. I've always broken rules, right? And I broke many laws. I still break rules today, but I don't break laws.
It's interesting. It made me think of Werner Herzog, the filmmaker who did The Grizzly Man and all these documentaries and stuff. And his artistic thing was like, you go get the shot, like, but it's about risk. Like it's like recognizing, like, is it worth it to put the money in the Swiss bank given the risk that could accrue and your responsibility? How is it, like, what you're trying to do, is it worth the risk? And sometimes if you're an artist of life, artist of film, artist of whatever, you take the risk because it's worth it. Hey, relationships, anything, like there's that, like I'm getting it now. Like at the beginning, I wasn't able to conceptualize what we were talking about, but now I'm getting it, because there are consequences. Whatever you do, there's what we do, we are what we do, and it's going to come back in some way, or something's going to happen.
Right. And here's the thing though, is dropping the label of whether those consequences are good or bad. They're not good or bad consequences. They're just equally proportionate to the actions I've taken. And I have to take ownership over whatever comes my way as a result of what I've done. So it's like, oh, you know what? I skimped on my taxes last year. Right? Skimped on my taxes. Guess what? This year, I owe more taxes than I was originally tagged for last year. And why do I owe more for that year? Because I didn't pay the right amount of taxes. I have to pay more because there's a fine involved because I didn't follow the law.
I was trying to explain to, yeah, that's exactly right.
Like, and it's not, I don't look at it as like, oh, that's a bad consequence. Like I'm getting fucked over.
No,
it's
you're
like,
aware.
No, like, yeah, it is what it is. And so this year, like I've got to put an extra $1,000 away or whatever and pay that tab.
Yeah. Huh.
And it's not emotional. It's not up and down. It's just straight up the middle. It's just is what it is.
Well, we didn't get to any of this once again.
You want to, like, I mean, you want to spend like 15 minutes just talking about it?
About what?
About the stuff we talked about yesterday?
Didn't we just do an hour on it?
Yeah, kind of. But like, there was some other stuff about like the red pill stuff and the blue pill and like the betatization of men and like, some interesting things.
We can, yeah. We can. To me, it's like muddy waters once you go there. You know, like we can. It's just, I don't know. We can try.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's probably, yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, like, I guess for me, it comes down to like looking at how the games are played and like understanding the guidelines of the game. And there's certain guidelines in relationships with men and women that are non-negotiable. They're non-negotiable
Yeah, I loved what we were talking about yesterday.
because we're not talking about external things. We're talking about internal things, internal biological instincts that go back to the time when human beings started walking the planet.
Uh-huh.
Right? I do understand that they're probably sensitive topics, but it's at the end of the day, it's just, for me, it became really, really important to wake the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm with
Like
you.
just wake up.
Uh-huh.
Like wake up to all this bullshit. Wake up to all this garbage that's being passed my way on a daily basis. Wake up to the things that people are telling me and saying to me, all of the media, all of the information. And it's not, I'm not saying it's like, it's not a good or bad thing. It's like, it's just manipulation. And it's being in this matrix that's controlling my decisions and controlling my behavior. Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like waking up to that,
Yep.
not judging it, but like waking up to it. They're just falsehoods.
Yeah.
They're just not, it's just not accurate stuff. And I think as a man myself, right, I look at some of the relationships that I experienced, and I wasn't showing up in the way that I was interested in actually showing up. Right. And I'm saying that personally because I ended up having a poor life experience. I didn't enjoy my life in the way that I could have had I been awake and looking at this stuff
100%. Same
on a
here.
day-to-day basis, on just a day-to-day basis. Like for me, I was a relatively independent guy. Like I'd always marched to my own beat. Yeah, did I have some fear, and yeah, did I have some things that I was doing unconsciously and like running around causing havoc and being crazy? 100%. All things that I'm not interested in doing today. But at the end of the day, I had a group of buddies that I shot pool with. I had a community that I played golf with, right? I had a nice apartment in a cool part of town, right? Like I had some status, I was comfortable, I enjoyed my life. And what happens is that being so fucking asleep, I end up entering into a new experience where I start giving away my power of choice. I start giving away my power of my own experience in my life to external circumstances and conditions. And I wake up one morning and I'm like, I'm a sack of fucking used yard tools. I hate my life experience. I hate this. Right? I hate it. I'm dying inside. It goes back to like anytime I'm working, there's this part there's this part in this book, right? The big book where this guy Bill he's drunk around the clock. And this is in the 1930s, and his wife is supporting the entire family structure. She's supporting the entire family. She's working at a department store in the 1930s, while her husband, who had once been a reasonable provider or a reasonable contributor to their life, can't function anymore in the games, and he's stuck under the table drinking the clock around. Right? Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I don't care if she pays the bill at dinner or not. Right? But like at the end, like when it comes down to it, I have wanted to do something nice for a girlfriend, wanted to plan a nice night out, and the fucking bill comes. The bill comes, and of course the waiter or waitress at the time gives me the bill. Gives me the bill, not her, doesn't give her the bill, gives me the bill. And I can't pay that bill. I don't have enough I don't have enough resource to pay that bill. So I have to slide that bill around the table without saying a word, all coy and sheepish, in front of my partner who was expecting me to pay for that experience. And I knew that. I signed up for that game. I signed up for that. I knew that that's the way that it was. See what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
in that situation, it goes back to the stuff we talked about with Rich Cooper and Rollo Tomasi and these guys that are talking about masculinity and awareness and showing up in the world as a man. I've had a lot of really poor experiences feeling wise, emotionally, but I have never had anything that trumped that experience. I was inadequate. It was obvious. I couldn't contribute, all because I'd walked myself in a fucking sleepwalking state for so long that I couldn't contribute to something that I wanted to actually contribute to. Right. And I don't care who, like, if there's any women that listen to this, like, you can probably, I'd be really surprised if you'd want to be out to dinner with the guy that I was at that time, knowing and expecting me to cover that tab because I had planned it and I'd set it up. I don't think there's a woman that would be attracted to that.
No, I don't think so either.
That would be interested in it. Right now,
well, or man, to be fair.
No, like, yeah, a human being, like just a human in general.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was a miserable thing. And so like, I go back to that and look at that and go, I'm fucking done with that. I'm done. Like, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I plan something and I take the lead and set it all up and I can't cover the expense. And I'd become that type of person. I'd become that type of man. Right. And that touches on what we talked about yesterday, right? With like men showing up and men owning their lives and men, being responsible for their actions and leading by example and really, really being aware and awake in their lives. And I think it's for everyone, right? Like, I don't think it's just a man or woman thing. I think it's women coming to understand men, right? And understanding like the games of a man, and it's men understanding the games of a woman.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
So that's my objective for the new year. That's where I'm at, man. Like, taking honest stock of everything that's there, how I'm experiencing it, looking everything as reasonably and as clearly as possible, and then making plays for new development and new skills and new experiences in the next year, and having fun with it and playing with it and seeing where it all goes. And then, reevaluating it at the end. And you know what, maybe I get to a place where it's like, you know what, fuck that game. I'm not interested in that anymore. Like, I don't want to play that game. Like, I don't care how much money comes my way on a yearly basis. Right. Or maybe I shit can all the games and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to become a monk. Right. And though all of those they're all fine. It's just that I'm aware of how I'm showing up. I'm not joining a monk because she said I'd be a good monk or he said I'd be a good monk. I'm joining the monkhood because I'm interested in experiencing monkship or monkhood, right?
I almost joined the monkhood, but then the monk said I can't because I have a family. Like, it was like, yeah. No.
Yeah, there was a guy that talked about that. Like, he tried to become a monk and the monk just flat out said to him, he's like, this isn't your purpose.
Yeah, that's what he told me. Yeah.
Like, you're better served in those games over there, not this one.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He told me.
You know what I mean?
Ruined the Grand Canyon for me.
Good stuff. And before we shut it down, I'm just curious about your stuff, right? So like, we had this conversation yesterday, and like, what were some of the things that you saw in yourself of like how you were becoming, or like how you were experiencing yourself that were like red flags where you were like, wait a second, like maybe I've I've stopped doing this, or I've stopped doing that, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was the gym thing. It was the moment I shared with you when I was I guess if I was in the bedroom without I was not wearing a shirt in the bedroom. Mel comes out of the bathroom, right? And she looks at me, and I'm sitting there shirtless, and I could see she didn't look enticed, right? And I was like, I know I haven't been to the gym in 2 months. And then she goes and she's walking past and she goes, no, no, no. She goes, no, 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 you look great. And I could feel that it wasn't authentic.
Right.
Right. I knew it. And it didn't upset me. I wasn't bothered by it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a data point. Like I said, I'm really good at listening. I was just like, okay, well, you know, I don't want to be, first of all, it's nice. It's nice. It's like a nice gesture, right? When someone compliments and doesn't say anything, you know, it's a nice gesture, but I want to, the only experience I'm interested in is truth. So I'm not interested in any fallacy. I'm not interested in things that aren't true. And, and so anyway, I take the data, right? We have the phone call. We're talking about this stuff. We're talking about taking ownership. We're talking about seeing things. And I was like, I could be better. That was all it was. I could be better. And so what can I do to be better is go back to the basics. Sometimes it's okay, now I'm waking up early to do prayers and meditations. Sometimes it was like it was yesterday where it's like I'm scheduling going to the gym.
Right.
And yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but that's that's an example of exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, because well, really, really what it was, you play the tape out, that was a microcosm, right? I'm aware that this relationship with Mel is a living, breathing thing that has all potentiality to succeed or fail. This is a live game occurring right now.
Every day.
And I want to be, if I'm going to play a game, I want to be the best at it. I want to play the game, dude. Like I want to really be in there. And it was just really cool that the conversation elicited this moment of awareness, because I didn't give it a second thought. I was just like, yeah, I haven't been to the gym in 2 months, you know, and I didn't care.
But see, this is the thing that I saw for myself when you were talking about that, was that sleepwalking Peter would have said something disrespectful and been like, why the fuck are you looking at me like that? What, like, why are you giving me that look? Right? Like this poor me thing. Right. What, you're not attracted to me anymore?
Right. Well, it's not, and it's not, it's like, it has nothing to do. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, but that's how I would show up in those situations, because I would feel that energy as being an attack on my character, which I had to defend. Right. And I would push it. I'd push that stuff out when really it's just feedback. Right. Like today, for instance, I had, like a couple years ago, I had a friend of mine, like, take a look at my apartment. And like, I'm like, oh, what do you think of my place? You know? And she was like, oh, it's pretty nice. You know, like another inauthentic gesture. It was a fucking pigsty. It's just, it was disgusting.
You knew it. We knew it. We all knew it.
Everyone knew it, you know? And so like, I looked at it and was like, yeah, she's right.
Right?
Like, I didn't say that.
Yeah, but you felt like, it.
Yeah, but I didn't get defensive. I didn't get upset. I was like, okay, cool. Like, am I willing? Do I like paying the price of that response to my question? Like, is that? And I said to myself, like, no, that's not how you want to show up. That's not how I want to show up.
Goes back to the manhood thing, right? Like I'm interested in the experience where the woman I'm with wants to jump my bones. That's the experience I'm interested in. Yes. And if that's the experience I want to have, there's things I need to do.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. I totally get that, right? Because in that situation, for instance, I was upset at my partner for not being attracted or not having genuine desire for me, but yet I'm walking around smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, not doing anything physical, not doing anything to maintain and grow and develop, you know, physically, spiritually, mentally in my own life. And like, I'm mad at her. And I look back at the way that I was, and I'm like, dude, so you were so unattractive. Like, just so unattractive. Like, it's just awful. Like, you weren't healthy. You were a pissant in every area of your life. You were a pain to be around, right? Like, and I got that feedback from other men like years later. There was this guy that was so influential in my early sobriety. Like, we would have a meeting every day at this place that I worked at in the parking lot, and we would smoke cigarettes or whatever together. And he was just like a cool old school guy, right? Like, great guy, successful in business, happy family, like a good man. And he'd been sober for 2 or 3 years. And like, we were like, he's almost like a surrogate father to me today, you know? And but this was like a couple years ago. We were out playing golf, and I asked him, I was like, hey, just like out of curiosity, what did you think of me when you first met me? And he goes, Peter, you were an arrogant, self-absorbed pissant, right? You were an
Yeah.
arrogant, self-absorbed pissant. You wallowed around talking about your problems, talking about this, talking about that, complaining all the time. He goes, you carried yourself like an absolute loser.
You looked pretty cool though. I remember seeing you back in the day, dude. You looked cool out there smoking the cigarettes.
Yeah.
But no, you could feel it. You could definitely feel that.
This was before this was like the first 3 months, like, where I didn't have, there was nothing going on. Like, it was the first 3 months of where I was so sick.
Yeah.
Like, and he saw that from the beginning, right?
That's what's so interesting about the intuition piece is like your intuition can know things before you actually know things.
And he was right. See,
Wow.
like, and I'm like, well, how am I today? And he goes, you're not the same person. Like, you're a totally different person. You're actually a man today. Like, you're take responsibility for your life, right? You're not a victim anymore. You're showing up, you're participating, you're doing things, you're building, you're creating, you're developing, you're growing. It's a totally different person. And that's the type of change that's possible when I got interested in what was going on inside me, when I got interested in how I was showing up, when I got interested in being honest and open about who I was at the time that I was looking at it, right? And then over and over and over and over and over and over, like, rinse and repeat. All of a sudden, 5-6 years down the road, like, I wake up on every day, and I'm like, you know what? Like, this is pretty cool. I'm all right. Like, I'm comfortable on a day-to-day basis. Like, that doesn't mean that I don't go through waves like you and I have talked about off the pod. Like, yeah, dude, I had, 6 or 7 days there where, like, I was off. Like, I was just, I was angry, I was resentful, I was full of fear. Like, I couldn't look at anything, I couldn't see anything, but like, the thing that I've recognized is, like, when that stuff comes, is what am I doing? Am I deviating from the disciplines? Am I deviating from the actions of character? Or am I staying the course? Am I trusting that I'm taken care of? Am I trusting that I'm okay? Am I doing the things anyways in spite of how I feel or how I'm thinking? And that's the biggest difference that I've recognized, is that's real discipline, right? Like, am I going to my yoga practice that I committed to, even though I have a little bit of a headache, or even though I don't feel good, or my body's sore? Am I continuing to do the things, right, that I've set to practice? Am I continuing to practice prayer and meditation? Am I continuing to show up when I'm asked to show up? Am I holding true to my commitments? Are my feet doing what my mouth is saying? Looking at that stuff, right? Coming into alignment, coming into congruence, coming into this cool, interesting way of living life. And today I can honestly say that I am doing that. Like, that's how I live. But 5-6 years ago, no fucking way. I didn't live that way at all, And that's where, like, your gym thing, I completely relate to that. Like, completely relate to that. But I want to be the type of person that you showed up to be, where you're like, yeah, you know what? Like, this is important to me in my life. Like, this is something that I value, and it's a part of who I am as a character. And, like, I haven't been doing it.
Yeah.
So come tomorrow, like, I'm there. right? And like I put it in the calendar, and regardless of what else is going on, like I'm fucking there. I might
Yeah,
not feel good. I might not want to go. I might want to change my mind, but like, no, I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do.
totally.
That's so cool though. Like, and that there's so much freedom in all of that. Like there's so much freedom in that, because what happens is that as those disciplines start to add into my life and those commitments, you know, I start to come into alignment, all of a sudden the universe provides me with options. I'm given
Yeah.
options, right?
Yeah.
Like you're, and you talked about this yesterday, and I think it's such a cool story. But like a year ago, like you were talking about this whole Mel thing, right? And this relationship thing, and like what you were going to do, and like how this stuff was going to play out. And like you were living in an environment that you didn't want to live in. You were living around people that you didn't want to be around necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but you're not experiencing that today because of the person you became and the decisions and choices that you made.
Yeah. And that was what
Like,
was so wild about it, was because it was like being in a Bunsen burner or something, because like it was like I knew something had to change, but I didn't know what it would be externally. I just had to stay focused on the work that we're talking about. So it would just, your emotions would rise. I'm still here. I'm trying to go check out this apartment. I'm still trying to figure out how to make my way. Right.
right.
So it took me some time with this stuff. It took me some time talking with you to really get to that space where I was able to have that conversation with Melissa and say, I know now. I know the experience I'd like to have with you, and I know what I'm willing to do. Are you up for it? And to put myself out there, like, and it was scary as shit. I remember I was like sweating leaving your apartment to make that phone call, because there's risk there, right? I don't like being told no. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of all sorts of shit. I'm afraid of, all, but with your help and with the show, like, this is wild. We talked about this yesterday too, that all this stuff is captured. Like, it's all there. It's all laid out on all these episodes, me trying to figure out how to live this way we've been describing. And that was the game time happened when I left your apartment, and I shared and that was the thing. I was like, the terminology, like, what do? We share. We're not telling any, like, and when I changed that that language, and I realized, like, that's what life is. It's all sharing. Like, when I get into any sort of discussion with Melissa, I've since realized now, all I have to do is share what I'm feeling and how I see things. It doesn't have to be a debate. It's just, this is how, I don't have to go down this road. Like, this is
Right.
all it is. This is, I'm sharing with you how I feel and see things. And I don't know where
And
else.
yeah, it was such a cool thing to see, right? And like how you're living today, like, just hit me probably a week or two ago, where I actually started to grasp and understand like where you were a year ago and what experiences you were having in that department, like your relationship and your living, and like how all that stuff was what was occurring, right? Because like I remember doing the podcast and like talking to you on the phone, like on Zoom and stuff, when we'd come across each other, and like you're in this like little room with like a cool setup, right? Like a functional setup, but like clearly not what you were interested in experiencing. Like
No.
it served a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like it was obvious that it served a purpose at the time that it was there, but it was obvious as well that like you were at that point in your life where you wanted to experiencing something else,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Like another.
The best way to describe it is if you could see the background at some of the Zoom videos, it had all my art stuff there, and it looked really cool. It was feng shui, and that's kind of where I existed. I lived in this world that I had created. That's really what my life was. Like, I just had created what I felt would bring me my own happiness.
Yeah, but see, the thing that I can completely identify with is that if I don't wake the fuck up, I'm still living in an apartment with no furniture.
Yeah, I'm still
I'm still
living. Yeah.
I'm still living in a place where I'm afraid to pay it. Like I'm afraid that I won't be able to pay my electric bill. Right? Like
Yeah.
that's where my like like sleeping. That's how my sleepiness looks like totally optionless,
Yeah.
right? A needy, clingy, soft human being that just, right? But then I'll show the character to you that I'm not that way. Right? Like totally
Yeah.
inauthentic. And that's the price that for me, like I remember that stuff. And like that's the price of not doing the work. For me, that's the price of not continuing to develop and continuing to grow and continue to play a hand at the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I'll go back there. That I'll fall into, the trap of letting you guys run my life and then be all upset when you don't do what you're supposed to do, and then make decisions in my life and then blame you for making those decisions, and then walk myself right back into a place where nobody wants to be around me. I have nothing to contribute. I have no options. Can't do anything, right? And I'm totally stuck. And then I'll be walking around in a state of delusion saying like, oh yeah, you know what? Like my life's okay. I'm enjoying my life. It's not true. It's not true. It's false. So like the gravity of it for me is like, it's a really heavy gravity, right? Like I'm so clear on like seeing what it looks like when I'm not doing the things that have been shown to me, and I'm not interested in going inside, you know?
Yeah.
But your example of like the decisions and choices that you've made from like coming from a hole, essentially, like where you were 3 or 4 years ago, like to where you are today, like it's a revolutionary change.
But that's why it's so backwards, because I didn't make any decisions, dude. Like I listened to you. Like I maintain that, man. Like I can't
No,
actually
no.
tell you.
What I'm saying is that you were the one that made the phone call.
Well, but like I this
Like
is why.
you had to push the numbers.
But this is where it breaks down from, and I wish I could phone a friend and bring Reed in here, because he's on this kind of wavelength. But like it breaks down because I just can't. I can tell you, in that room, in that space that I was living in when we first met, with all my art shit behind me and the life that, quote unquote, I had created, I can tell you specifically all about the podcast, the shows that I performed at, all the films I made, all the essays I published, all the things I did. I can tell you all the stuff I decided to do. The moment we started these conversations till now, I can't actually tell you anything I did. I honestly don't
Yeah.
feel like I did anything.
No, and I understand.
I started listening, and I started being open. And like you said, I started sharing.
Yeah. That's just a personal philosophy, right? Like, and that's for you to make sense of, like, however, but at the end of the day, like,
That's true. It is true.
like it doesn't,
yeah.
like for me, like I see it for me the way that I see it, right? And I'm clear on what I see for me in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
You're aware and you're conscious of the decisions that you're making.
yeah, like I'm doing things, like Peter's
Yeah.
doing things, right? And that for me, that's an alignment for me of where I am today, right? But the point that I'm making is that regardless.
But wait, what about the stillness? What about the space of non-being underneath the Peter?
Yeah. There's nothing happening there. That's just awareness. That's just that gap, that recognition between this character and who I really am. You see what I'm saying?
So who you really are is
It's not my
everything.
name. It's not the character.
It's everything, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I
So that's
can't.
what I'm saying.
No, right. But what I'm saying is that because for me, there's everything, right? There's everything. And these games that I'm playing, like the tax game and the relationship game and the work game, like those are made up. At the end of the day, those games, in the grand scheme of life, of what life is, they don't matter.
Yes.
Right? Like they really don't matter. Right? I come in and I come out. See what I'm saying? Like I'm
Yeah.
here, and then as soon as I'm here, I start decaying, and I decay and decay and decay and decay and decay. This body, whatever this game, this life experience thing is, like it decays and then it's gone. Right? Like I don't have any delusions about like that philosophy for me. Like that's obvious to me. But then there's these games that are inside what the real game actually is. And that's what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about, and who's playing the games, the small games, the relationship game, the money game, the tax game, the sports game, like all these different things, right? That's Peter. Peter's playing those.
Yeah.
Right? Like Peter's playing that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm well aware that it doesn't matter. That's why they're games.
Right.
Right? Now,
Yeah.
within those games, there's a bit of a hierarchy in terms of level of sincerity. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, yeah.
maybe there's a long-term relationship that I experience. I experience a long-term relationship game, right? And things keep going and going and going, and there's experience on experience on experience on experience. That moves into a place of greater sincerity as that game continues. It's not frivolous, or it's not like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No,
everything's fluid. But like,
yeah.
if I'm showing up, if I'm playing the game of a round of golf, like let's say you and I go and play a round of golf, and it's not in a tournament setting, there's nothing that really is going to come my way materially by playing that game with you. My level of sincerity goes down. Like, I'm still sincere, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I can go out and not have any. It's like going out and throwing the football with your buddy. Like,
which is interesting, is like I like the higher level games where you need sincerity.
100%. 100%. Like, and that's again, but that's a personal philosophy.
Right. Right.
That's a personal idea. But what I'm saying is that regardless, in any game that I'm playing, any game that I'm involved with, whatever that is, action has to be taken. Some action has to happen. Wherever that action comes from, like I'm not going to debate that.
Right.
So like, and you're like, for instance, the phone call has to be made.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. And there was plenty of time. Yeah. There was plenty of times I'm sitting in that car, and yeah, I mean, because we didn't even really know each other, but I was, yeah, dialing the phone number. I viscerally remember sitting outside the Kroger parking lot one of those days being like, I'm gonna call, I'm literally dialing right now because I don't know what to do, and this is something that somehow was in my repertoire of like, when you don't know what to do, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless of the source of that action, whatever, like, it doesn't, I don't, like, for me, I don't split hairs with it. It doesn't really matter to me. All I know is that it's something that I do, like something that happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I found is that by taking a look at the things that I'm actually doing in these games, by just looking at it and being aware of what comes to me as a result of the actions that are being taken, that gives me some understanding and awareness of how it actually works.
Yeah.
And that explains
Totally.
why in my life, over the last period of time, my life has gotten significantly easier. Not harder, easier. Like, it's easy to earn income. It's easy to develop skills. It's easier. Like, these are easier things for me. They're not hard. They're hard. They were hard for me because I was still external. I was still attached to what everybody thought of me. That was hard. Because I'm dealing with other circumstances and external conditions that are influencing what it is that's being done. But all of a sudden I get internal, and it's just like, well, this is what I do. I just do this.
Yeah.
And I no
What a
longer
joker.
care. And I no longer care whether you think it's moral or whether you think it's immoral or whether you think it's bad or whether you think it's good. It doesn't matter to me. This is just what I do. You're more than welcome to give me feedback on that and like share with me what you see. But at the end of the day, the actions are coming out of Peter. They're coming out of whatever this is.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude.
So it's just cool. It's, you know, it's easier. It's more interesting. Like it's a more interesting way to live for me. And then the cool part is just recognizing other people experiencing something else. Like it's so rare, man. There are guys that I know that are stuck in the same fucking situation that they've been in for 20 years or 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like you and I both know people that are living in that same apartment. They're not interested in that apartment. They're interested in experiencing something else, but yet they're sitting in that same spot day after day after day, year after year after year. And then they're wondering, well, like, why don't I live an abundant life? Why does my life look, why don't I have any options in my life? You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
man.
that's
Yeah.
not my responsibility. Like just like it wasn't your responsibility when I was living in an apartment with no furniture, no hot water, no heat.
Yeah,
You know,
living out of my car.
yeah, sleeping on with, 6 jackets on and 4 pairs of sweatpants, all because I'm too stubborn and too stupid to be able to recognize that I don't know what's best for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Damn, dude.
It's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You,
But all
yeah.
these things start unraveling as soon as I start getting interested in the inside job, and I start getting interested in how this character, how I'm showing up, right? Then the mind starts to open, right? And the world, my perception on life starts to shift. And I don't see things the way that I used to see things. And then things start rolling and things start opening up, right? Like that flower that's blossoming, it just starts blossoming and opening up, right?
That's what I
And
was. I have a bone to pick with your perspective on your mortality, like the decay thing. What if it's a growth thing?
no, yeah, you can, yeah. I was just looking at this at the cycle of life in a total, like in a total spectrum, right?
It's like a tree that grows and grows and grows, and then near the end it gets tired and wilts.
Yeah. But like just for instance, right? Like as soon as I'm born, like that whole process, I'm moving closer and closer to decay.
Yeah. That's
Right?
gonna happen.
Yeah, because I'm moving closer and closer to decay, I'm always decaying. See, like I'm never moving closer on the stream of life. Like I'm never moving closer to being born again.
Well, what about we've been going a long time. Now I want to ask you about fucking autobiography yogi books of people that that expand beyond the decay.
Yeah,
Like
I don't have any personal experience with that, but like, is it within the realm of possibility? 100%. Like I totally believe that a human being has the potential to transcend
the limitations of their body.
Yeah. I just personally believe that. I don't know if
yeah, dude.
I don't know if I'll ever experience something like that, but like, is it something that's possible? 100, like I think 100%. I've read too many personal experiences of people, and like Yogananda was one of them. But like the stories he shares in that book's, like there's several people that are, it's obvious,
Yeah, you keep hearing the same stories, and there's these, you hear about these people that can do, and yeah, I don't know. I'm with you too. I want to believe. I'm X-Files. I enjoy believing.
Yeah, but yet for me personally, I'm not at that place where like I'd ever be like, I'm not interested in experiencing transcendence. Like I have too much fun like in the mud.
Oh yeah, same. I don't think it's a possibility for me.
Yeah, well, I don't even think about it. I just enjoy the games and I enjoy the mud. like I enjoy the struggles and I enjoy the non-struggle, you know what I mean? Like I just
Yeah.
enjoy that.
You have to accept your wiring. Like I've accepted that, like I enjoy the shit out of, I don't know if an awakened transcended master plays 8 hours of EverQuest. I like playing EverQuest, God damn it. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, maybe you're just the transcendent, the transcendent being that, found the jazz in EverQuest.
Reasonably speaking, there's hundreds of thousands of people there that are conscious entities existing in this fictional realm. So it's not much different than where we are right now.
Playing EverQuest, yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, dude, this has been great. It feels like it was like a first conversation. Like it feels like we're new people, both of us. And I think this is
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like this is definitely the longest episode we've ever had.
Yeah, and I think the cool part is I just have this feeling that down the road there'll be like this next year is going to be. I see a lot of different things taking place in my life, like new experiences in my life, and I see the same. I see the same for you. But the cool part about it is we do the work.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that I think is so interesting is, and I guess just I've been paying attention to it. Like, I like spending time with people that I have more energy after you spend the time with the person. Like nothing we've done here felt like any energy was spent. It felt like energy was created.
100%.
And you can tell in your day-to-day life when, if you get a feeling and you're like, I don't know, this is going to, this is just me speaking to the listener. I give you permission to go where the energy flows. You don't have to go hang out with that dude or that girl or wherever, if it's going to be a bum out. I'm giving you permission.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like, you ever go to a meeting? You ever go to an AA meeting and it just feels like a fucking morgue?
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just sit there and it's like, what are we doing here? Like,
fuck yeah.
What is this? Like, is there not anybody in this room that's excited about the potential of their life? That's excited about growing and excited about waking up and like experiencing a vibrant, abundant fucking world? Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like for me, that you hear people talk about like feeling better when they go to meetings. Like there are meetings that I go to where I feel worse because the energy is so low and it's so depressing and like, right. And like, why do I go there? I go there because there might be somebody there that's dying and wants to get well, and maybe I can be available to that person. You know what I mean? That's the purpose of being there. But like this buzz that you and I have experienced over the last couple hours, like this is an authentic buzz. This is a buzz that I experience on a regular basis, whether I'm in an AA meeting or whether I'm not.
And that's what they talk about when they talk about freedom, I think, and excitement in life and what could be,
And then constantly looking at where other people might be accurate, right? Like being open to see, like, not that it's going to be like I'm going to copy the person, but like genuinely listening to somebody that's experiencing their life in a way that I'm interested, and then openly and honestly taking stock of how I am in relationship to it and going, is this dude, what this dude is saying on this podcast, or what this dude is writing, or what this woman is writing in this book, right? Like, is that authentic for me? Like, is that something, like being open-minded to that stuff, right? Because that's the only way that I can take stock of my life and be like, yeah, you know what? In terms of your life, like the 6 or 7 spokes of your life, everything's looking pretty cool. And like, there's a lot of cool things going on, but that 7th spoke, that financial spoke, like this is the year where we can put some energy and some focus into creating that.
Hell yeah.
Right. But I can only pick that up because I listened to a guy say, like, this is what it was for me. This is what happened. this is what I recognized, and how like the lack of my financial abundance in my life and the lack of what I was as a person was limiting my options of things I wanted to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Oh, cool. That makes sense. That makes sense. So the guy says, in order for it to be better, I have to be better. In order for me to have a new experience, I have to change. I have to put in the time and the effort, and I have to put myself in a position to be changed.
that's
Right?
that's one of my favorite clips that we've ever had from the show, is when I was at your apartment and you went on that like, you don't need to change. I need to change, dude. Like that's it. Like it's not
Yeah.
nothing outside. And the craziest part is when I started to change, everything else started to change.
Right. The friends changed, like the people that were hanging around me changed, the relationships changed, the income changed, the options of playing games changed. Right. Like,
And that's what I'm on about when I'm on about the unknown variable or the mystery of life, the whatever it is that's in this beyond the realm of the physical is so interesting to me, because if you're existing in a state of the unknown or the potentiality, then you are accessing parts of yourself that you can't see, and those are what are being brought forth into the realm of existence or reality, or where we are.
into the
and,
light.
and that's really like, that's being at the precipice of what you could be at all times. Like that's, what else would you want to do? Like be the best you could possibly be at all times. And the only way to do that is to tap into a space that you can't actually know or describe. It's the ever changing, changeless state, this unknown variable of change that is in all aspects of existence.
Right.
The constant variable of change,
100%.
progression that you described, decay, growth, whatever it may be.
Yeah. That's cool. It's been the greatest, like I've said this before, but it's been the greatest revelation of my life. No two ways about it. And it's an honor. It's an honor to do the work, right? It's like, I feel like there's an element of privilege in being able to do this stuff, and being able to look at myself objectively and say, you know what, like, you're inadequate there. Like, you don't have those skills, or like, you want to play this game, but you're not good enough for that right now. Like being in that place where it's like super hard on myself and super objective, but understanding it, right? And understanding that if I'm willing to look at it, and I'm willing to have some inputs with it, that I can have new experiences with those things, with myself in relationship to those things.
Yeah.
And then not having to bitch about it when I don't put the work in. Not bitching about it, going like, oh man, I got so unlucky there. Like, that dude didn't do that, and he fucked up the deal and whatever. And I look back on it and I'm going, you didn't fuck up anything. You didn't do it. Like, you didn't do the work that was required for it. You should have had another deal on the side that was going to cover your ass. Right? Taking responsibility for my life. He's not responsible for whether or not the deal goes through or not. I am. Or more importantly, like getting paid on that deal, right? Like leaving that guy, that person's decision to dictate whether or not I can pay my electric bill, right? Like, no, I'm paying my electric bill, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have 4 or 5 of these deals in place, right? Make the inputs so that one of the deal closes and I can pay the electric bill.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But then not bitching about it when it doesn't go my way. And not bringing that shit to other people. Like bringing that to you and calling you on the phone and being like, you know what, man? Like, I'm such a loser. Like, you and I have never had a conversation like that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't come from a place of lacking. It comes from a place of potentiality.
Well,
From a place of abundance.
we have had like, I'm struggling conversations.
100%, but that's authentic. That's vulnerable.
Hmm.
That's real. I'm struggling. I'm not saying I'm struggling because you did something,
Oh, right. Yeah.
right? Or because she left. She dumped me in a text message. No, I'm just struggling with this, dude. Like, what do you see? Like, what do you think? She can do what she wants to do. It doesn't matter to me, but like, I'm interested in how I'm showing up in relationship to it.
Right.
You know, like I'm hurting from it. I'm in pain from it,
Right.
but I'm not saying she's a, this or that. I'm not calling her names. I'm not putting her down. I'm not talking poorly about her. I'm just saying, like, dude, tough deal for me. I'm having a hard time with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Way more constructive.
Whew. Well, shit.
We're back, bro. We're fucking back.
dude. We're back. Yeah, I'm excited about what's gonna unfold now too.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Anything else before we wrap it up?
I don't know. You're gonna have some editing to do, man. I don't know if people want to listen to us.
I'm not editing anything, dude.
You're not?
No, I'm gonna just rip it.
All right, we're in the rip and run. Well,
Yeah, because I think there's a lot. First of all, like, I was interested in everything we were talking about the whole time, right?
yeah, me too.
And so in that sense, like, and like, it's stuff that I want to hear. And, like, you can take personal, creative liberties with things to try to be helpful to an audience when you're producing a piece of content, but
create some clickbait.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we're just making stuff to make stuff. And if someone finds it and it's helpful, that's what it's for. Like, it's not for me to decide what should be in or what shouldn't be in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've tried doing that. And, I don't want to, I don't, something you may say someone will get, will click with, that I accidentally cut out because I didn't get anything from it. And I'm not the best judge there, because I'm not other people. And vice versa for me. I may take out something I say because I've already said it or I've heard myself say it before, but somebody else may not have. I don't want to be the one to decide what is valuable or not for other people.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah. Thanks
All right,
for joining.
well, what's that?
Huh?
What'd you say?
What are you going to do?
Huh? No, I guess onwards we go.
Onwards and upwards.
All right.
All right.
Namaste, my brother.
Namaste, dude. Catch you later.